GCSE Business Studies, Unit 4.2, Types of Written Communication. This short video will cover the main content from this unit. You may find it useful to pause this video if you need more time to read the information on screen. The specification is what you need to know, and this suggests there are a number of different types of written communication that businesses can use to communicate with stakeholders. These include letters, memos, newsletters and agendas, amongst others. We'll now consider these methods of written communication in a little more detail. Before we get into this detail, let's recap the different broad types of business communication that exist. Internal communication is that which takes place within the business, for example between managers and employees. External communication is that which takes place between the business and those stakeholders outside of the business, such as customers and suppliers. Note that the type of communication and the language used will differ for different stakeholders. So what are the types of written communication that you need to know? On screen are the types listed in the specification. Although quite a straightforward topic area, there are some technical terms here, and you may want to ensure that you know these different types. You may want to pause the recording now just to check this list and your understanding of each method. To build on this knowledge, you now need to consider how each type of written communication is used and what the advantages and disadvantages of each are. Pause the recording now to see if you can identify two stakeholder groups that each type of communication might be used with, plus an advantage and a disadvantage of each. When you've done this, press play again to see how your suggestions compare to ours. Well, our suggestions are on screen now. It's not intended to be an exhaustive list with every possible answer, but rather to give you some idea of who each type of communication is used with and what some of the pros and cons are. You may well have come up with others, and that's fine. Before we move on to an exam question focus, just a final word on the part of the specification that relates to layout, tone, visual impact and language within written communication. In part, we feel that this is a fairly straightforward, common sense part of the specification. Layout refers to the presentation of the written communication used. In the example on screen, which is that of a business letter, paragraphs are used and the letter is formally presented. The language is formal. This is to do with the tone of the letter. Think about how the tone of a communication might differ between different stakeholders. For example, a memo to a colleague compared to a letter to a customer. So tone concerns language and is important as it reflects directly on the business. Visual impact refers to how the communication looks. Is it formal? Is it professional? Again, this reflects on the business itself. Now let's look at an exam question on this topic. This is a question that is based on a short case study about a fitness company. Very important that you read those little case studies before attempting any questions. The business is producing a newsletter for customers. It says it in the question. This is important, this is significant. Note that it's an outline question and it's worth 2 marks. Are you okay with outline questions? The question is also based around this particular business. Your answer will need to be in the context of this business if it is to score full marks. Pause the recording now to have a think about how you would answer this question. Have a read of this student's response. What do you think? How many marks would you award? Is there any context in the response? Again, pause. Have a think, and when you're ready, move on. Now read what the examiner had to say about this. It's a straightforward 2 marks. There's clearly context in this piece of work because the student refers to classes and to fees. A good response. Final points. Written communication It's important, not just in getting a message from one person to another, from one stakeholder group to another, but in providing stakeholders with a perception about the business. Professional, useful, written communication can only reflect well on the business sending it.